February 11th, 2026. Havana wakes up, not to warmth, but to a pale, tired morning. The first people in the city quietly leave their homes, heading for the lines. Today, a bakery in Vedado. Elena, a 45-year-old architect, joins the line, holding an empty bag and a small folding chair. The word going around is, bread might arrive. No one knows for sure, but just the hope is enough to bring hundreds out into the cold morning. The line is like a lifeline. People share news, helpful tips, and complaints. Media group. People talking and sharing news in a Cuban bread line. Close-up of Cubans chatting in a shop queue, exchanging information, stock, distribute kinds equally. When the power will go out, how much things cost on the black market. Which pharmacy might have aspirin. The internet is down again. Information travels by people talking to each other. The line barely moves as the sun comes up. Havana's colors look faded, its music replaced by worried whispers. Every little movement at the front of the line is watched. Every rumor is passed back. Waiting in line is more than just waiting for bread. It's a daily routine of not knowing what will happen. After 3 hours, disappointment spreads through the crowd. The bread runs out, 20 people ahead of Elena. She picks up her chair, accepting it. No anger, just a shared sigh. Finding food is a full-time job, with no promise of success. Elena goes to another line, maybe for potatoes, maybe for cooking oil. Her whole day is spent looking for basic things. This is not just her story, but the story of millions of people across Cuba. The line is both a sign of not having enough, and a sign of how strong people are. In Havana, staying alive is measured by lines, and hope is given out in small amounts, like bread. Cuba's problem is like a slow-motion breakdown. You can feel it in empty stomachs, dark houses, and quiet streets. The U.S. ban, which is now an oil blockade, has pushed the economy to its breaking point. Power outages last up to 12 hours in Havana, and even longer in the countryside. Families cook with charcoal, buses barely run, and old classic cars sit still. Gas is a luxury. The ration book doesn't offer much. Government stores are empty, and black market prices are super high. Inflation has made the peso almost worthless. A piece of pork costs almost half of what someone gets for their retirement. Endless lines are now a way of life, with no guarantee of food at the end. The government blames the sanctions. Many quietly blame years of bad management. For most people, politics doesn't matter compared to the daily fight for food and electricity. The promise of the revolution to be self-sufficient has faded into just trying to survive. In Cuba, a crisis isn't just one event, it's the new normal. Roberto, 78, a retired history teacher, lives alone in a crumbling apartment in Havana. His pension, which used to be enough for a simple life, now disappears in days, worth less than $10. His mornings are spent in lines for bread or chicken, often coming back with little more than sad-looking vegetables. "We are not living, we are surviving," he says, surrounded by books he can no longer read in the dark. Power outages are long, medicine for his blood pressure is impossible to find. His children in Miami used to send money, but sanctions have made sending money unreliable and expensive. The US's recent help with food and medicine feels like a cruel joke, a tiny drop of water in a desert. Roberto's story is shared by older people in Cuba, loyal to a system that is now failing them, caught between a government asking for sacrifices and a powerful country putting pressure on them. Too old to leave, too tired to protest, they keep going, making rice last, sharing the little they have. Their strength is quiet, born out of need, not hope. The promises of the revolution have faded. Survival is now the only goal. For Roberto, each day is about making it to the next sunrise. The past is a memory. The future is uncertain. His ability to keep going is not heroic, but necessary. In the darkness, he waits, like so many others. Survival, not living, is what old age means in Cuba. With no fuel left and a collapse coming, Cuba's government puts in place harsh emergency rules, the zero option. Government companies cut down to 4-day work weeks, travel between provinces is greatly reduced, cities are cut off, schools shorten their days, universities think about closing, tourism stops, fuel is saved for ambulances and food delivery, the rest of the country waits. On TV, officials ask for sacrifice, blaming the US ban and talking about the spirit of the revolution. But behind the slogans, desperation grows. Even the government quietly tries to talk with the US. For regular Cubans, the zero option means canceled buses, closed workplaces, and going back to just barely surviving. The call for more sacrifice is met with tiredness and sadness. The country is on standby, waiting for help that never comes. In 2026, Cuba is alone, cut off by US bans and left by old friends. The US, led by strict leaders, wants to change the government, forcing an oil blockade that has crippled the island. Venezuela's problems and Mexico stopping fuel shipments have left Cuba with no reserves. Russia and China offer words, not help. The UN criticizes, but nothing changes. Since December, no oil tankers have arrived, jet fuel is gone, tourism is stopped. US humanitarian aid is seen as a publicity stunt, not a real solution. For Cubans, international politics means daily suffering, decisions made far away, pain felt at home. The island feels completely alone, a piece in a big global game. The most painful cost of the crisis is the huge number of people leaving. Over 1 million Cubans have left since 2021. It's not just people who disagree with the government, but everyday people, doctors, engineers, teachers, fleeing for a stable life. Some leave legally, most risk dangerous trips by sea or land. Every neighborhood has stories of quiet, tearful goodbyes. The loss of skilled people is hurting the country, creating a bad cycle. As more leave, services get worse, pushing even more people to go. The government sees people leaving as a way to ease tension, but it's hurting Cuba's future. Those left behind face broken families and a weakening society. The crisis is now seen as worse than the special period in the 1990s, not just because of shortages, but because of a lack of hope. In the past, people believed things would get better. Now the only hope is to leave. The island's future is leaving, one plane and raft at a time. For many, the exit door is the only solution. Cuba's famous healthcare and education systems are falling apart. Hospitals lack antibiotics, pain medicine, even water. Patients bring their own supplies. Power outages stop surgeries. Long-term illnesses go untreated. Thousands of doctors and nurses have left the country, leaving those who remain overworked and tired. Schools, though free, are getting worse. Teachers leave. Days are shorter, supplies are hard to find. Some rural schools have closed completely because of a lack of transportation. Parents worry about their children's futures and health. The agreement between the government and people, loyalty for basic needs, is broken. The decay of hospitals and schools is a sign of a broken promise. The foundations of Cuban society are cracking. On Cuba's streets, fear and frustration are common. Open disagreement is rare, protests are met with force. People whisper complaints in lines, tired from daily struggles and political blame games. Most feel powerless, focused on finding food and surviving power outages. Yet, there are sparks of hope. Clever solutions from the community, homemade fixes, neighborhood support networks. The spirit of resolver, finding a way no matter what, continues. It's a small victory against huge problems. The future is uncertain. Most see only 3 choices: keep going, fall apart, or escape. High-level talks with the US cause careful guesses, but few expect real change. For now, survival is measured in days, not years. Despite the darkness, the Cuban spirit continues. Strength is found in small, everyday actions. Laughter in a 6-hour line, a neighbor sharing sugar, music played during a power outage. The crisis has made community ties stronger, trading networks, shared homes, shared resources. Even when things are scarce, human connection is the most valuable thing. People hold on to their culture and small joys, dominoes, discussions, sunsets over the Malecon. Life goes on, love, birthdays, grieving, and hope. Strength is not passive, it's creative, stubborn, and joyful. Cubans believe this too shall pass. One day the lines will be shorter, the lights will stay on, and the ships will return. Until then, they'll find a way. Because that's what Cubans do.